One can never have enough socks. Another Christmas has come and gone, and I didn't get a single pair. People will insist on giving me books. I wonder if Dumbledore would settle for a fun hat instead, but let's dive into the video today as we rank Harry Potter's Christmases from the ages of 1 to 17. Not going to include his first one because, I'm sure he had a fun time as a 5-month-old with James and Lily, but we don't know what they did, and it's not like he'd remember it anyway. And just for a little housekeeping, the way I'm going to be ranking these is based off of what he's doing for the holidays, who he's doing it with, and the presents that he gets as I try to get into his head to see how he would be looking back at these Christmases. Okay, so we're starting at the bottom with numbers 16 through 8, and that is all the Christmases he spent with the Dursleys.
This is the last I'm going to take of you and your nonsense.
Look, this is a shock to nobody. The Dursleys are the worst, and this is without knowing how many times Aunt Marge shows up for Christmas. We only know of one for sure, which may make it the worst, but that might also be the only Christmas present Harry gets any of these years.
I've got presents!
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a kid who's ever gotten any presents, so the only present he may get from the ages of 1 and 10 is a box of dog biscuits from Aunt Marge. Which, by the way, why does Marge do this? She does like her dogs, right? Except for the ones that she has drowned, I guess, which, ugh. But anyway, even if these treats are no good or they're for a dog that she doesn't like anymore, why go through the effort of this, I just imagine her grabbing the dog treats and just saying oh, I better throw these out. No, wait! I'm going to bring them to Privet Drive for Christmas to give to my nephew who I hate. But because this is a Christmas video and it's supposed to be fun, I'm going to look at the bright side here and ask the question of why do the Dursleys then start giving Harry presents when he starts at Hogwarts? It's not like it's anything good. The best ones are either a 50-pence piece or a toothpick, but they are still giving him gifts for some reason. And I think Hedwig is the reason why. I think that first year she's seeing all the other owls come with gifts for the kids at Hogwarts and thinks, oh, I better get back to Privet Drive. The Dursleys probably have something for Harry. And then when they don't, she just starts attacking them until they give her something, or maybe just throw something at her, just the first thing they can grab, and then she just takes that. And that's Harry's gift from the Dursleys, Maybe the house elves wrap it for her, too.
Shoot!
Okay, now let's dive into the Christmases that we know. The ones that Harry would, well, maybe not loves, but, even the worst of these has to be better than Christmas with the Dursleys, right? Number 7, The Deathly Hallows. This is kind of a weird one to place, obviously Harry's on the run, hunting for the Horcruxes. I'm sure that he would love if Santa would give him one for Christmas, but Santa doesn't deliver for him, and there's really not a lot of positives this year. What's interesting about the placement here is that once Harry starts at Hogwarts, this is the only Christmas that he spends without Ron, because Ron has obviously left him and Hermione because of the locket, and Hermione and Harry don't even know that it's Christmas until they're in Godric's Hollow, actually, and then they get attacked by Nagini as Harry's wand gets snapped, and they just barely escape before Voldemort shows up. Really, the only reason this is ranked above Christmas with the Dursleys is because Harry gets to spend it with Hermione still, and the two of them have a nice moment as they visit his parents' graves. So, you do get a nice moment in all this chaos, but it feels pretty easy to say that this isn't Harry's favorite Christmas. Number 6, The Order of the Phoenix. This is a tough one to rank because based off who he gets to spend it with, this really should be Harry's best Christmas. He's with the Weasleys, you got Order members like Tonks and Lupin, Hermione cancels her plans with her family to be with them, and it's his only Christmas with Sirius. And right before the holiday break, he's able to have a little celebration with the DA as Dobby decorates the room a requirement for them so that they can have a very Harry Christmas. But the reason why they're able to have this celebration together at Grimmauld Place is because Arthur is in St. Mungo's after nearly being killed by Nagini, and Harry spends a decent chunk of this break thinking that he's responsible for the attack. So the company that he gets to spend this Christmas with is really the best in the series, but because this is Order, Harry can't have anything too nice, which Also kind of feels like the theme for his gifts this year. Sure, he gets a nice wallet from Hagrid and Tonks gives him a working model of a firebolt, but even that's kind of weird, you know? It's like if you know somebody who has a Ferrari and you give them a little toy Ferrari. Sure, it's nice and, you know, you thought of them and obviously they like it, but, you know, why give them a little toy when they have the real thing? And plus, Harry's like 15 here, you know? I think he's past wanting toys like this. Yes, I hear the irony in me saying that's surrounded by toys, but I don't have a real lightsaber, and honestly, it's probably a good thing that Grogu isn't real.
So play nice.
Really, the most useful gift he gets this year is from Lupin and Sirius, as they give him a book, Practical Defensive Magic and its uses against the dark arts, as, you know, it's basically his fun uncle's just nudging him along, hey, keep up with this illegal defense group. Though the gift we hear about the most in this book is definitely Hermione's homework planner, but he really only uses that because he loves her and he's trying to spare her feelings. And with Ron, it doesn't really feel like he put a lot of thought into his gift for Harry. He gives him Birdie Bots every flavored beans, and considering the perfume he gives Hermione, it kind of feels like he spent all of his gold on a pretty girl, and then at the last minute has to grab something for his best friend.
Shame. Shame, shame, shame! Shame on you!
You know what, though? For Harry, this Christmas really is like every flavored beans. Some are good, some are bad, some make you want to puke.
A loss. Earwax.
Number 5. The Goblet of Fire. Ah, the Yule Ball. You know, this could have been a great Christmas for Harry, Ron, and Hermione. You know, if they weren't teenagers. And yes, Harry's got a date with a pretty girl, but he doesn't want to be there with Parvati. He wanted to go with Cho Chang, sometimes known as Hot Lips. And the thing for Harry is he hates being the center of attention, and, you know, because he's a Hogwarts champion, at least for the start of the ball, he is going to be one of the 4 centers of attention. But he's still at Hogwarts, so he's home, and there's even more people around than normal for Christmas because of the ball, and it's not like it stops him from having his usual fun with the Weasleys and Hermione, as, you know, before the Yule Ball, they're all outside having a snowball fight, which, gotta imagine, is pretty fun to have with magic. And he gets a pretty good haul on his gifts this year. You know, he gets the usual Weasley sweater, he gets some socks from Dobby, a magical penknife from Sirius. From Hermione, he gets Quidditch teams of Britain and Ireland and why they suck so much. Wait, that's not it. But click on the card up here if you want to know why they do. And he gets dung bombs from Ron, which maybe Ron's just not that good at giving gifts, some candy from Hagrid, and a single tissue from the Dursleys. Which, again, I have to ask why. And, you know, did they fold the tissue? Is it a used tissue? I can't imagine Petunia wanting to keep that evidence around that the Dursleys do something as filthy as, you know, blowing their noses. They're so obsessed with being perfect. And who mailed this? Who took the time to mail this tissue? And how much did it cost? I'm starting to get why I think it's just Hedwig attacking the Dursleys every year. And we end the holiday with another fight from Ron and Hermione, so we got another mixed bag here for Harry that just goes to show just how bad life is with the Dursleys that this Christmas cracks the top 5. Number 4. Prisoner of Azkaban. This is a pretty quaint Christmas for Harry, actually, and the reason I say that is, you know, it's another Christmas at home at Hogwarts, and what's kind of interesting is, at this point in the story, his Christmases have only been at Hogwarts. You know, it feels like he should have more of them at the Burrow, but, like, when you break it down, for the first 4 years he's at Hogwarts, then it's one at Grimmauld Place, one at the Burrow, and one in Godric's Hollow, actually. And the reason why I say it's quaint is because of just how few people are actually at Hogwarts. You know, they get to Christmas dinner and it's 13 people, or 14 with the unregistered animagus, but, you know, Harry is still loving it because he's getting to be with Ron and Hermione, who are, of course, worried that either Sirius is going to kill him or he's going to kill Sirius, but even with that, he doesn't let it ruin his mood at all. He's just happy to be with them. But the big reason why I have this one at number 4 is because of the gifts. Or more specifically, because of one gift. Because this is the year that Sirius gives Harry his firebolt. And aside from the invisibility cloak, this is the best Christmas present he ever gets. And if it weren't for the familial ties and the need that Harry has for the invisibility cloak, this would be his best gift. It's kind of like when you ask the question, would you rather fly or be invisible? It's like, what would you be doing that you need to be invisible for? But this is still Harry, and things can't just be nice. The firebolt is too amazing of a gift to not be suspicious with everything going on, and Hermione immediately reports it to McGonagall, who takes the broom away from him, and all of a sudden, Harry and Ron aren't talking with Hermione for months. Number 3. The Half-Blood Prince. Christmas at the Burrow. There's nothing like it, because there is one thing that Harry can get at the Burrow that he will never be able to get at Hogwarts, and that is motherly love. Oh, come on and stir my cauldron, and if you do it right, I'll boil you up some hot, strong love to keep you warm tonight. Well, it ain't motherly love if you aren't a little bit embarrassed. There is no Hermione here, though, and that would knock it down a little bit for Harry, because, the whole thing with Wan and Lav, but, she's got to be with her parents at some point, and it's really only 2 out of the 7 Christmases in the series. Even then, he still gets to spend his Christmas with the Weasleys and Lupin, who is at his most loving uncle in this chapter, as Harry is trying to figure out if James or Sirius could have been the Half-Blood Prince, and Lupin is, he's able to joke with him, comfort him, he understands him, and I don't even know if Harry would be willing to admit this, but he really does need somebody like Lupin here, just, a father figure who knew his father, knew his godfather, knew them both really well, and can just understand him, and I think that is an amazing gift he gets for this Christmas. Then Rufus Scrimgeour shows up and wants to use Harry for propaganda, but even this isn't as much of a negative as some of the other things on this list, because Harry's secure in himself. He knows who he is. He's Dumbledore's man through and through. If you want to feel bad for somebody with this whole Rufus Scrimgeour thing, it really should be Molly, because, this is kind of like the last time that she gets close to having all of her kids together, because, Fred's gonna die in the war a little more than a year later, and something I was kind of surprised by going through and researching for this video was that the Weasleys never spend Christmas together as a whole family. It's either somebody's in Egypt or Charlie's in Romania or Percy's not speaking with the family, and this is even like with the wedding, Percy's not there, and like with Bill graduating in 89, like there's a chance that was the last time that they were all together as a family, and their last Christmas together would have been in 88, and this just really kind of goes to show just how much war can destroy families, and taking time for holidays like this, if nothing else, is just as an excuse to see the people we love most. I don't know. I know it's kind of depressing. I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest, just something that occurred to me. But I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Let's try to have a little fun with this and get back to what Harry's gifts are for this year. It's pretty standard stuff. He knows the deal by now. He's going to get his Weasley sweater. Fred and George give him a ton of their products just because, they're so grateful to him that they're going to give him whatever he wants and even more than that. And then he has Creature giving him a bag of maggots, which, by the way, is technically more than Ron gets him for all we know. But I think this Christmas is summed up by its setting perfectly. The Burrow is warm and welcoming. There's no other place like it, really. And even with the worries of Snape and Scrimgeour, this is still a pretty good Christmas for Harry. Number 2. The Chamber of Secrets. When Harry looks back at his time at Hogwarts, it feels like Christmases like this are going to be what he remembers. Mr. and Mrs. Weasley are away in Egypt, and with all the rumors surrounding him and the Chamber of Secrets, he, Hermione, Ron, Fred, George, and Ginny basically get free reign over the Gryffindor common room. They can play Exploding Snap as loud as they like. They aren't going to be bothering anybody. Except for Weatherby, I guess. He'd probably still be bothered by it. And of course, it's not Hogwarts for Harry without some hijinks, but this is pretty low stakes compared to some of the other stuff he gets up to later in the series with the Polyjuice, Yes, Hermione turns herself into a cat, but that still pretty much gets undone right away. And the gifts Harry gets this year are pretty good. You know, he gets treacle fudge from Hagrid. He gets an eagle-feathered quill from Hermione. He gets his usual Weasley sweater and a plum cake from Mrs. Weasley. Ron gives him the book Flying with the Cannons, which, knowing Ron, was probably his book before and has probably been thumbed through a few times. And then he gets a toothpick from the Dursleys. You know, there might actually be a world out there where Harry's favorite gift this year is the toothpick.
Man, this just feels right. That's it. From here on out, I am about all things toothpick.
And number 1, the Philosopher's Stone. Was there any doubt here? This is Harry's first real Christmas, and the only one where there isn't something going wrong here. He gets to spend it with Ron, Fred, and George, and Percy. He gets his first Weasley sweater, along with a whole bunch of other gifts from Mrs. Weasley, as he feels maternal love for the first time since Voldemort tried to kill him as a baby. And he gets the invisibility cloak here, which, besides his wand, becomes his most important magical tool. And him getting the cloak leads to him finding the Mirror of Erised and seeing his parents for the first time in his life. The only way this Christmas could have been better for him is if Hermione was there too. That's how close to perfect this Christmas is for Harry. This one, more than any other, is the Christmas that is the reason why Harry looks at Hogwarts as his home. He gets his first real Christmas here. He gets to spend it with his first friend. And at the end of the day, aren't the Christmases that we remember the fondest the ones we had when we were young? And that is my ranked list for Harry Potter's Christmases. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this list, if you agree, if you disagree, if you want to make a joke about Ron's gift-giving ability, or the lack of it. Or I would love to hear what you guys do for the holidays. You know, if you want to drop that in the comments too. Spread the love, share the traditions, and thanks for watching. My Christmas wish this year is that you enjoyed this video enough to drop a like on it. Subscribe if you want more like this, and I'll see you next time on STV. Have a very Harry Christmas, and happy holidays, everyone.
Ho, ho, ho.